Good afternoon and welcome back, all of you. So, we were discussing about essay technology, with respect to which we discussed about various subtypes. Hmm. In types of introduction, so far we have completed, we can say, historical background, we have completed definition, we have completed quotation, we have completed engaging facts, right? Then, after this engaging and startling facts, we start with the other domain, that is anecdotes. I said anecdotes can be four types: imaginary. Hello, Raj. Though I'm not sir, I'm a ma'am. Good afternoon, Arun, and Subhash, and Nitin, Akanksha, all the students who have joined in, all of you. Okay. And then you can talk about, after imaginary, we can talk about real life incidents also. Childhood stories, mythologies. We can also talk about something like, we can consider the segments associated with. Okay, so raising facts has been done already. No, sorry, raising questions. So, from generalized overview to specific discussion. And conversation. So, what we are left with right now in terms of this given area is, we all can consider, anecdotes is what has to be dealt with, generalized to specific, and then conversation. Three areas that are left. So, first and foremost, this from generalized overview to specific discussion, I would be discussing that. Good afternoon, Chituri, and all other students who have joined in between. So, when we are talking about this given subsegment associated with, like, let's say, the topic of, like, generalized overview to specific discussion, where can we see this? This state, like this specific dimension, we all can connect it with NCRT. Okay, NCRTs, or sometimes newspaper articles. You all can find that this, like, dimension is quite evident in the writing style of NCRTs or the newspaper articles. You can find that, like, sometimes NCRTs, how do they write the articles? So you all will be finding that NCRTs, they will sometimes give a generalized overview, right? You will be finding that given possibility, that they will, first and foremost, they will be presenting an overview, and you try to understand that what is it that it wants to explain, or it wants to, like, understand, or give you an insight in the forthcoming, like, we can say, sessions, or not sessions, means chapters. So forthcoming segments of the chapter. So, in the forthcoming segments of the chapter, we all can see that it opens, NCRT opens, that these are the segments that we would be discussing in the like follow up, in the like further segments of the given chapter. We read it, we check it out, we are like, okay, this is something that we would be like probably reflecting upon, right? So, like what I imply to say to all of you with respect to this given area is that we get an overview in the first para itself. We read it and we are like, okay, this is what probably the like we can say the article is going to discuss or the chapter is going to discuss when we are reading the NCRT or when we are like reflecting upon the segments associated with what the like chapter would be opening up for us, right? So in the given subsegment, when we are talking about the types of introduction, we all can see that giving a generalized overview that we would be discussing this and then this and then this and then we'll be discussing about challenges and then the way forward and solution. When people give an overview, these are the segments which we look forward to in terms of our engagement. Sometimes that style is like done great justice in NCRTs or in newspapers. People can get inspired with respect to those styles as well. I can probably give you an idea associated with it. Few students have used it in the past. So, just a second. Let me showcase that part. Wait. This one. So, you can see this specific like essay on civil society. So when this was written, I mean, I've given just an overview related to it. So this essay, if you are going through it, you can see how Sudeep has started it. In the process of like writing it, you can see that the person has given the component of generalized overview to specific discussion in this part specifically. You can see how the introduction starts. So the person has written, ever since man existed on earth, civil society was existing. So you can see there's a historical engagement to begin with, right? The concept of civil society has evolved from historic times to modern. In the pre modern era, people were seen as, you can see, as ones who are to be governed by the state, but later, due to change in the setup of the state, from dictatorial regime towards democracy, comma, the importance of civil society grew up. People started asserting their rights in groups and put forward their demands before the government. Full stop. This organization of people for protecting their multifarious interests and in some cases to support a cause, comma, gave rise to the modern civil society. You can see that. So, what was the purpose, the reason, the history behind the rise of civil society? After that, you can see civil society has now become the important actor of governance, sharing responsibility with the state in providing goods and services to the people. But after this, to understand civil society in its entirety, comma, it is imperative to know what civil society actually is, question mark, types of civil society, comma, its tools of action, and critical analysis of its working. Now, seeing this part, I can presume that this person will be talking about civil society in totality. This person will be hyphenating the dimension of types of civil society, the tools of action of a civil society, the critical analysis and reflection of a civil society. So, we can expect that the various subsegments associated with a civil society would be discussed, would be opened up, and would be taken up over here. Right? So, I hope all of you are able to understand this bit and you are getting an idea regarding this given subsegment, that how the content needs to be built. Right? So, when we are speaking of this given dimension, we all can like move ahead and we can create the content accordingly. right? So what is it? I hope all of you are understanding what is the subsegment associated with generalized overview to specific discussion. So in generalized overview, this is how we open a subsegment and then we substantiate it accordingly. Then comes the component of anecdotes. What do we deal with when we are discussing about an anecdote, and how do we substantiate the segments associated with it? Real life incidents, I mean, it can be two types, the so called real life incidents. Okay, so like let's say in this given dimension, we all can consider, like, just a second. So good afternoon, Sahil. Okay, so in this we all can consider, when we are talking about it, uh, with respect to real life incidents, they can be of two types. One can be associated with your own life, which is written in third person, and you can consider real life incidents related to famous people slash incidents which are documented, which people are reading in the newspaper or whatsoever. So either the life of the famous people, you can pick the insights from there and you can just substantiate that, or you can also talk about, the incidents coming from different, we can say, sources that can also be like picked up, like for example some incident from APJ Abdul Kalam's life, or Kiran Bedi's life, or MS Swaminathan's life, or any of such people. You can pick incidents from their lives and you can just substantiate it over here. That is also one of the ways to write the profound introductions. All right. Then, furthermore, when we are substantiating it with respect to this real life incidents, we all can think of imaginary incidents. Now, with respect to imaginary incidents, it can also be written in a very profound manner. You just need to be, I would say, a little smart regarding this imaginary incidents. Means, there was this one of my students, Rajendra, who used this method of imaginary incidents. Again, he was a Hindi medium student, and a very profound one indeed. He is presently a revenue services officer, and he is the mark of this given fact that no incident in your life should be taken in a derogatory fashion. It's like the way we treat life, our attitude towards life, determines our temperament and what we would be experiencing per se. Like, let us consider, if I'm speaking of this given dimension, we would be able to understand this, that when we are talking about, like, let's say, the segment associated with imaginary incident and real life incident, we all need to understand this bit, that let's say, okay, the lines do get blurred. This boy, he got married when he was 16 years old. Okay, and his after his marriage, he continued studying. He encouraged his wife also to study. He completed his 12th, prepared for IIT, like cleared IIT, studied there, got back to civil services preparation, wrote mains, could not clear it. At that time we met. So very bright, I must say. He reached till interview, but he could not make it in the initial go. Anyway, meanwhile, he cleared SSC CGL, went to Chennai. There he was working in export and import division, and as a customs officer. But you understand that in SSC CGL you get the grade B ranks. Then after that, as he was doing that job, he encouraged his wife to continue with her education. She completed her graduation, her post graduation. She fought for the sarpanch election. She won and became the sarpanch. She started working towards empowerment of the children, especially girl child. And she started working towards opening a new school in her village, because the village had lesser children, so they had to travel all the way for 1.5 or 2 kilometers to go to a nearby village school. So a lot of interventions she also started. So in 2020, when it was COVID, I remember he texted me a specific number. And I was like, what is this, Rajendra? He said that, ma'am, please check. Today result is out. I was like, yes, result is out. But then I sensed this is the roll number of someone. And I saw that, and after, like, couple of years that I had taught him, he was completely out of zone. And then I see the result, and I see that it is like, he has made it to the list. And I took so much of pride. I took so much of, like, I was so happy seeing his result. There are some results that are much awaited from your heart, the bottom of your heart, and you really want to, like, see those children successful in life. So even if you don't talk to them, like, regularly, he was one of them. Very hardworking, very diligent, like a boy from the grassroots, and creating a change. So this was his essay that he wrote. I'm translating it for your convenience. It was written in Hindi. So he wrote that, the topic I'm not sharing, because I'll just share the content and then I'll share the topic, so that you get an idea how someone can be creative in this segment, that is imaginary incident. So he, like, wrote this segment that on one fine day in the month of December at 10:10 a.m., senior citizens were basking under the sun. Now you can, near the India Gate. Now you can imagine this, right? So at one fine morning at 10:10 a.m. in the month of December, senior citizens were basking under the sun. Okay, near India Gate. So you imagine that India Gate, green pastures, and senior citizens are basking, like, under the sun, because it's a cold winter morning. It's 10 a.m. So it is bit sunny. It is comfortable. It's the sun is warm. So they are, like, basking under the sun. So you can just visualize that situation. After that, the second statement he wrote was, within couple of minutes, hundreds of youth congregated near the India Gate. Fine, you can imagine that. Third sentence he wrote, from where and how and why have so many youth congregated? What is the purpose? Question mark. Now, these are the questions which you also experience in your heart when you hear that hundreds of youth have congregated near the India Gate. You feel like asking why and how, and, like what is the purpose? What is the outcome of it? So that's what. Then he changes the para. That's how you understand how to maintain interest. Short, crisp, meaningful sentences and short paras, not too stretchy and like one full page para, nothing of that sort. Changing the para, then he writes down, the answer to this question is that little nation, which is barely a decade old, but its population is competing with that of India and China. Now, this sentence does not make any sense and has no rhyme or reason with respect to the previous, we can say, content, the previous para. You're like, huh? Answer is the nation, and like these people have congregated, answer is the nation, which is barely like a decade old, and then the population is competing with that of India and China, and here hundreds of people are only standing. That's how you think. Anyway, as an examiner, you're ready to, like, deduct marks, you're ready to cut marks, but you just want one more sentence for the explanation and clarity. Then in the next sentence he writes that, yes, here we signify this presence with the impact of social media, which has brought these people together and millions of others across the world over different topics of their interest, engagement, and intervention. Full stop. The topic was social media and its impact on the youth. So, on this topic, social media and its impact on the youth, he wrote this introduction, an imaginary incident. An incident did not take place, but he substantiated it in this manner. Now, majority of the people who would be writing an essay on, like, let's say, social media, will be talking about all the online platforms, from Facebook to Telegram to LinkedIn to Instagram to Snapchat, right? So rather than resorting to that specific thing, what we see him doing related to this given topic is he is creating an imaginary incident, and through that he's talking about the power of social media, especially for the youth. Like, for example, when he's saying hundreds of youth congregated on a cold winter morning over an issue, means the power of social media is to also assemble people informally and physically beyond, we can say, the physical boundaries and beyond the presence being there per se. Mhm. Furthermore, as we are speaking of it, we can also see that when we are talking about types of introduction, we all can. So we all can connect it further and we can substantiate. And what can we substantiate it with? Let us reflect upon that. So, when we are talking about, like, let's say, the types of introduction and substantiating the insights associated with it, we can consider that again, one more thing was there in this essay. Everything was perfect except one. I said that don't use the word nation casually. There's a difference between nation and nation state. Definitely, we all understand that nation state means a country which has its not only boundary and people living in it, but also a sense of sovereignty. There is a sovereign realization when we use the term nation. Means nation state, a country. Okay, but when we are using the term nation, it may or may not have a sovereign identity. Like, for example, the Khalistanis, the Balochis, okay, the Kashmiris, we can see the Nagas, we can see the Dravid Nadu movement, we can say the Kurd community in Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Syria, right? So across the world you can find there can be a lot of nationalities but may not have a nation state like recognition as a state, recognition as a country. Okay, so when he wrote the term that, and the answer to it is a nation which is barely like a decade old, but its population is competing with that of India and China, it was fine. I mean, like, technically speaking, there was nothing wrong because a nation may not have a sovereign realization. But a political term used for a social media platform or technology was something little, like, little offbeat. So I said that pick the right kind of examples when you're using the term. Do not mince the language. But when I speak of, like, the term related to imaginary incidents, you can see that how he could visualize, because imaginary incidents needs to be vivid. You should be able to visualize it, that yes, first this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and this is how, like, people congregated, and this was the purpose, and this was the outcome, this was the impact. When you're able to create that, then it is able to bring about qualitative change in terms of how marks is rewarded to you. Okay, so when we are discussing about this given subsegment associated with types of introduction, we all need to understand that this segment or this domain of types of introduction with respect to imaginary incidents can be associated with a lot of, like, segments which you can create on on the spot. You can create it with some imaginary events, or like some story, some anecdote, something which you have read elsewhere, and you're spinning it afresh as per the suitability of the topic in your own words. That is possible. Okay, one thing. Second thing, when we are discussing about it, that is, we can talk about, like, the component of childhood stories. Can childhood stories be written as powerful introduction? Let us understand that. Like, let's say you all have read the story of the hare and the turtle, right? All of you have been aware of it. How about recreating that story for a topic which is related to development? Okay, so let's say for development, if you're writing a story like this, that every time as a child one read the story of the hare and the turtle, one was always apprehensive. What if the hare got up, comma, would the turtle have a fair chance to win the race, question mark? What if there was a stream, question mark? Even if the hare was running very fast, did it have a fair chance to win the race, as it could not cross the stream, question mark? Then after that you're writing that the coveted goal of development can be reached by the hares and turtles of our society when the hares are carrying the turtles on their back as the turtles like are falling behind in the race. And as a stream approaches, the turtles carry the hares on their backs so that both are in a win win situation. Are you understanding that? Yes? Childhood story. There are multiple childhood stories that we are exposed to since like our childhood, and a lot of insights, a lot of, we can say, breakthroughs that we are exposed to, which can be consolidated in the domain of essay writing to make the essay creative, engaging, and titillating. You must have heard the story of the thirsty crow. You can always uh, like bring that wisdom in, that suppose there is a topic associated with poverty or vulnerable sections or development, you can always say that um, the story of the thirsty crow can help us signify the nature of interventions required for the vulnerable sections. Various pebbles in the form of schemes, laws, policies, programs, and other interventions can be thrown in the pitcher of limited resources so that the limited resources rise up and quench the thirst of the vulnerable sections who are able to gratify or satiate their needs and fly back to the society as enabled, capable, participative citizens, right? So that's how you can spin the magic with childhood stories. This reminds me of Ratatouille. I don't know how many of you have watched that movie. It's, many people call it Ratatouille. So whatever, Ratatouille, in this, if you would have watched it, there's a little rat who is a chef and in France, and there is this boy called Linguini. And this rat, what he does is, like, he climbs up and hides in the hat of Linguini. And what he starts doing is that like he keeps, like, encouraging Linguini to cook various dishes. So Linguini becomes very famous, his dishes become famous. Somehow this news just filters out, and people come to know that there's a rat in the kitchen, to which there is a food inspector who is going to come, and he's a connoisseur. Basically, he'll be tasting the food and rating the food, which would impact the rating of, we can consider, a specific restaurant. So what happened was that this connoisseur, this food connoisseur, he went there, and when he ordered, like, whatever is the best in the restaurant that should be served, so Linguini goes back and the rat starts preparing a ratatouille. It's just like, imagine some guest has come and he is the master chef audition conducting, we can say, person, and he is going to a restaurant. He is saying that if you are really good, you will get a chance to participate in master chef. And, like, let's say the head chef starts preparing khichdi. Okay. Or, like, we can consider that, I hope all of you understand khichdi. It's like lentils and rice cooked with bit of spices like turmeric and salt, and maybe some in other parts of India something else, and then that is boiled, and that is what is khichdi, the standard khichdi which is served in India. So just in the similar manner, if you see, in the we can say, in the French hinterland, a person who was hungry and was, like, poor, who used to have ratatouille. So this child, this, like, chef celebrity, we can say, food connoisseur. So what happened was, this man, when he was a child, he was really poor, and his mother, she used to come back from the fields when this boy was back from the school, and she used to prepare a fresh pot of ratatouille. Ratatouille is, like, a tomato paste in the base, and topped with baked vegetables. So, and he used to love that dish. And then this rat in the restaurant helped Linguini to fix a dish of ratatouille. And when the, like, this food connoisseur has this ratatouille, he is just reminiscing his childhood. And in the process of reminiscing his childhood, and the intelligent take with which the food, the basic taste was preserved, and the twist that, like, was provided, he really enjoyed it. He wrote a rave review, and that is how the restaurant was back on its feet. In the similar manner, your essay, when you are writing childhood incidents for the examiner with a fresh twist, whereby the relevance of the topic is protected and maintained, your essay becomes like a ratatouille. It has a similar ratatouille effect for you, whereby the examiner reads it and gets titillated that, wow, what an amazing way of engaging with the topic, and a sense of connectivity, which is definitely enervating for the examiner, whereby the examiner feels the importance of, the creative engagement that you have made with respect to the given topic, right? Yes, by navigating him using his hair. So very true, Subhash. So I hope all of you are able to understand this. Childhood stories. There is always a definite impact of it. It's just that you don't have to write the story per se. You have to write the relevance, like we can say, an analogy. So when you are able to create a comparison and then write the story, then it shall have a definite impact on your marks, because that will create a ratatouille effect for the examiner. Knows the story but never saw that creative spin. Okay. Now, similarly, you can see the term mythology. Same applies to mythology, just like historical incidents. Mythology can have a lot of, we can say, sources. So, in terms of mythology, I can give you the insights associated with like Jataka tales. You can think of Panchatantra, Hitopadesha, right? So when we are talking about like mythology, you can pick from any of the sources. Then there is the Betal Pachisi or Vikram Betal stories, right? So why am I saying Betal Pachisi? Because all the stories associated with Betal Pachisi, whereby the Gaul is speaking to the king Vikramaditya and narrating an incident, he is asking towards the end a question of ethical dilemma. That what should the king do in that situation? What would the king decide in that specific situation had the case come before him? And if the king would have responded correctly, then the Betal would have continued to move with the king. If the king responded incorrectly, then the king's head would break into thousand pieces, and he said, "You'll instantly die, and I'll be back to the tree where I belonged to." So the king wanted the Gaul to come and decurse the throne. There was a throne which was like cursed throne. It was considered that if it will be anointed and decursed, then the king, whoever will sit, will bring a lot of prosperity to the kingdom. So when the king met Betal, that is King Vikramaditya, met the Gaul set this condition that if you fulfill this condition, that you are going to respond to all the answers correctly, then I shall go to the kingdom and, anoint, or rather, I would decurse the throne. Anyway, the incident is not this that is important. What is important are the little anecdotes or short stories that he keeps narrating on the way and asking the king for the solution, that what would you do in the situation. And those incidents or anecdotes are very important in terms of helping you understand ethical dilemmas of a leader and how to solve those ethical dilemmas. One. Second, with respect to Hitopadesha, Panchatantra, you can see a lot of animal tales whereby they are impersonated as human beings, and they take decisions, or they interact, or they work, or they decide as per like value based choices that also can inspire children, that can also inspire children with respect to what kind of decisions ought to be taken. So you can just think about that. Again, Jataka tales, when we speak of it, we all can think of it as, we can say, the story from the life of Buddha. And they are mythological because you cannot validate if each and every incident mentioned in the Jataka tales really happened. That's why it is considered as mythological. Now, as I substantiate this given segment of Jataka tales, let us understand what kind of possibilities it can create. So, under the segment of Jataka tales, as we like substantiate it, we can, like, let's say, consider, or we can build upon the possibilities associated with, like, let's say, some kind of we can say dimension or some kind of content that is related to have you heard the story of Angulimal, people? Have you heard the story of Angulimal? I don't know how many of you have heard that. Have you heard it? Angulimal, people? I think so. Yes. Okay. Fine. So Chituri, you have not heard. Nitin has not heard. Yeah, your generation actually is not into reading books. No, that's why you might have missed it, and it's okay. So the story, like that's why the mixed response. Someone has heard it, like Simran has heard it, or Samhita has heard it, but like others have not. No problem. See, so there's this now Angulimal. Everyone knows just by one basic fact that he was the guy who used to kill people in the like forest, and he used to take, after killing the people, he used to take the finger, the tiny finger, and after this small finger, the little finger as it is called. So after taking this little finger, he used to sew it, and he used to wear a necklace of it. So he had a necklace of like 99 fingers, and he was looking for the 100th victim. And it is then that Buddha like passed by in the forest, and when Buddha said that when he started chasing, he started running in his direction to catch hold of Buddha and to kill him. So he like asked him to stop, and Buddha was like, Buddha was walking, so he just stopped. He smiled and he said that, my child, I have stopped long back. When are you going to stop? But the love, the compassion, the deep sense of love, the sense of like, compassion, the unconditional love with which Buddha spoke, not having any fear. Many people got scared of Angulimal. People used to faint. People used to become defensive. So rather than becoming defensive or fainting off or being fearful, he just smilingly, with a lot of love, he asked that, my dear child, I have stopped being violent. When are you going to stop? To which what happened was that Angulimal was shocked, and he had never expected that treatment. And you could see that here is a wise man, an enlightened one. So he fell on his feet, and then he asked for forgiveness and showing him the right track. Now you cannot imagine it in a regular situation, right? Suppose some guy is chasing someone with a gun to shoot, and the person is like walking calmly, and as the person is like, why you're not stopping, I'm asking you to stop. And the person politely smiles, turns, and says that, well, I have stopped long ago, my child. When are you going to stop? Not necessary that anyone is going to be like stuck in the thought provocative situation. The person might pull off the trigger and say that, अच्छा मतलब रुक गए तो पूरा ही रुक जाओ, क्यों? And then ठाई मार के और खत्म कर दे, है ना? हो सकता है ना ऐसा? So not everyone will be responding the way Angulimal responded, right? So here is the mythology behind it. The mythology can be used if you are writing a topic related to children or juvenile delinquency. I hope all of you understand the meaning of juvenile delinquency. Children who are stuck in crime, or who like they become victims of crime by being called as criminal because they performed something wrong. But such children who are less than, like we can say, in different types of crime, 16 or 18 years of age, when they are like a party to the crime, such children are referred as juvenile delinquents, right? So if you're writing an essay on juvenile delinquency, you can always bring in this insight. Why? Angulimal was basically a prince. Yes, he was a prince as per the Jataka tales. So he was a prince, and he was, when he was like staying at the Gurukul, few of his classmates falsely implicated him in certain incidents whereby they were performing the incident and falsely implicated him. So in certain incidents whereby the guru got very angered and thought that the prince is taking undue advantage of his privilege, whereby everyone was treated equally at the ashrama. So the guru warned him twice, and at the third time, when he was not even responsible, all the three times for that matter. So when he was falsely implicated and he was not even responsible, then what happened was that the guru got very angered, and finally the guru removed him from the ashram. So when we speak of the guru removing him from the ashram, he was kicked out of the like Gurukul. So what happened because of that, Anguli Mal, he definitely got fairly disturbed, this prince, and he went to his father complaining that he is not to be held like a party to the crime. He is not the person who is responsible for it. He has been like wrongly punished. The father, when he complained about it to the father was sitting with other courtiers in the court. So the father took it to his, like I would say, his own personal failure. And the father thought that this is bringing him lack of glory and fame in the, we can say, before the courtiers in his court. So the father kicked him out of the kingdom. The father said that I banish you from the state. Okay, so you have been ostracized or banished. Please leave. Now, this boy, he had nowhere to go, and he was a young teenager with nowhere to go, without any mistake, being kicked out of the Gurukul, then out of the kingdom. So he cannot walk even in his own kingdom because his father has punished him and told him not to stay there. So he starts walking towards the forest. In the forest, there were dacoits, and there were thugs, so who looted and plundered people. He kept hiding. Later on, he was also caught, and in self defense, because he was prince, so in self defense he fought against them and killed them. And that is how a new journey started for this prince as Angulimal, whereby looting and plundering became a way of life for his survivability. And that is how he got into killing people. So somewhere in the subconscious, the little kid was there. The kid who was hurt, unloved, not taken care of, not guided to the right path was there in the heart of that boy. And that is how, when Buddha passed by, and Buddha left him with a thought provoking question that I stopped long back. When are you going to stop? It had a profound impact on his mind, due to which he was like kind of taken aback, and he was like, oh, here is someone different. And that is how he fell on his feet, sought forgiveness, and wanted better guidance for life. Hmm? Mythology. I hope all of you are understanding. So, mythology, when you have to write, please remember it's not story writing competition. I know that listening to the mythologies can be very enervating for all of you, that you're listening and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Or this way of starting the essay will be so different. It will be so refreshing. It will be so engaging. Yes, all that is there, but only when the story is not too stretched, when the story is not too expanded. If the story is too stretched or expanded, you will end up losing marks. Please do remember that. Okay. So when you're writing the story, see to it that the story is engaging, see to it that the story is meaningful, right? That's what you have to take care of. When you're able to bring that wisdom, you will be able to like get extra marks for sure. Okay, so I hope all of you are getting some insight associated with this given area, and I hope you are having a sense of understanding associated with this component of anecdotes, and you can understand that how it has to be put to good use, right? Good, good, good. It's a very interesting way, but keep it crisp. That's the basic rule of anecdotes. It should be short, like in couple of sentences, 4 or 5 sentences, like complete this. If it is stretching, it will be like a kill job. But if you are able to bring in the justice, you will be getting great marks. All right. Last but not the least, conversation. Conversations, never again stretch it up. Keep conversations as two sets of conversation. X spoke, Y responded, then Y spoke and X responded. That's it. That's it. Better would be if you can only create two sets. X spoke and then Y responded. Finish. That's it. Because again, it's not a conversation writing competition. So just one pair of conversation would be more than enough. If there are short conversations, then maybe two pairs, but preferable is one pair. How is it written? That should be the next piece of inquiry, or you must be curious. So it can be done, like let's say you saw that Srushti was writing a conversation, no, not conversation, she was writing on child labor, right? Child labor, plain evil or just evil, something like that. So, like, let's say you have to write an essay on child labor, and you have to start with conversation. So, suppose you write down Ramesh and Suresh, after attending their social issues class, go to a nearby tea shop to have cups of tea and samosas. Now, with this introduction, you can imagine that there are two children who are studying social issues, and after that, they have gone to a nearby tea shop and they are having like samosa and chai. That's something which you can visualize. Okay. Now, after that, Ramesh colon. So, one sentence is going into giving the backdrop. Second is Ramesh colon. Buddy, I really don't feel that child labor can be truly eliminated from our society, as all these police wallas support this crime to take place despite corrective laws being there. Full stop. Right? So that's the general tendency of people to respond that, oh, all these police wallas are a party to this crime, because even if there is a law, still the crime is existing because like lawmakers have become lawbreakers. Like, so that's the common perception. That's how people talk. That's how people write. So that is like, let's say, Ramesh. Then Suresh colon writing down that, oh yes, you are very right, or you are very true, my friend. But I also believe that the day till I and you keep asking for more cups of tea and more chutney for our samosas from our very own Chotu, and Chotu undercoats, from our very own Chotu, the problem of child labor shall never get eliminated. Full stop. Is it making sense now when we are speaking of it, all of you? So, child labor, you're writing an essay and you are writing a set of like conversation whereby you are showing an exchange between the two individuals. One is blaming that because both have studied social issues, so that's why they are like loaded with the insights associated with child labor. Both are coming up with their insights. One is saying that despite the law, the problem is prevailing because of administrative failure. The other one is saying, yes, administrative failure is there, but there is one more reason behind it, and that is social acceptance. When people accept like children to be a labor, and when people let them work in their private spaces or public spaces, so child labor prevails not due to lack of law, or not only because of lack of poor implementation by the administration. Moreover, child labor is a problem because of, we can say the laid back attitude, or the, we can say, the kind of like, hopelessness and helplessness that gets generated because people are kind of we can say laid back about creating a breakthrough at grassroots level. Is everyone understanding this conversation, right? In one of the batches, I was just sharing this thing related to conversation. And what happened, one of the students, a beginner student at that time, now he is an IPS officer posted here in Delhi only. Last year only he was in news because of rescuing more than 150 children from the plight of child labor. That's how I'm reminded of him. So Meena, तो उसने क्या किया कि yes, there was this topic which he wrote that was related to the segment of this development. So he was the person who said, that was 2016 or 17 batch, 16 batch tha wo. So he said that, ma'am, I'm really feeling so uncertain with this mode of conversation. I don't know how to write an essay with conversation. It was a writing skill development program lecture. So I was like, oh, that's not a problem. You can always build upon the basics associated with it. So what I did was I encouraged him to come up with some, like, profound possibilities related to this given dynamics. And I said that for the sake of conversation, what you can do is you can, like, build upon your basics, and you can just start like trying to practice it. So like, but ma'am, I'm like, okay, let us do it in the class only. So to all the students I said, how about you people try to write an introduction using conversation with the theme development. So just try to write a conversation with the theme development. So everyone wrote. Interestingly, this fellow wrote the best one. Okay. So what was the like segment that he engaged with? So there was this first statement: grandpa and grandma were having cups of tea and discussing over the morning newspaper. Now, with this context, you can visualize that grandpa and grandma are having cups of tea and they are discussing over morning newspaper. So, grandma, okay, sorry, first was grandpa. Look at the pace of development. So many flyovers, 4-lane corridors, malls are getting built. India is truly progressing. Okay, exclamation mark. Then grandma, colon, my naive sweetheart, exclamation mark. Those who understand Hindi, it's like saying Dhat Buddhu or Dhat Pagle, right? So that's how. My naive sweetheart. So, naive sweetheart is like an informal expression. Why is it written? So that the conversation sounds realistic. It is not too boring or it is not non believable. So, when you're writing, yes, buddy, or my naive sweetheart, it makes the conversation acceptable, bearable. Okay. So, when this child writes that, yeah, my naive sweetheart, grandma, and then she's saying that for me, true development would have occurred if our neighbor Radha would go to the college without someone escorting her for the sake of her safety, comma, her brother and various such youngsters get jobs without any bribing to the government officials, comma, and you and I can go for pilgrimage without any fear of getting looted or plundered on the way. Full stop. Now, without being preachy, through this conversation, you can see the true meaning of development. What is it? So, development is not mere development of basic infrastructure, but also associated with what? So basic infrastructure like flyovers, roads, malls, etc. Okay, so development is not mere development of basic infrastructure, but also, and think about it, but also what? So but also, and then you can start substantiating, but also safety for women, higher education for women or every child, access to employment opportunities for all, lack of corruption and bribery, transparency in the system, safety for senior citizens, all of it, right? So, without being preachy, development is not just this, but also this. You have communicated the same through a powerful conversation, which was believable, refreshing, engaging, simplistic, and real life, right? So that's the power of, we can say, conversation. And that happens only with practice. You cannot imagine that you will start writing a conversation in the exam out of the blue. No, that really doesn't happen. For writing powerful conversations, you need a definite level of practice. How often should a student practice? Right now, because you're a beginner, you can try to write essays, 2 essays in a week. Initially, your essays will be like not very sharp, they will not be very good. There's a fair chance that your initial 4 5 essays may disappoint you. You may feel that with this level, how will I get selected? Or, oh my god, my essay is like I imagine something so good, but I'm able to write down something so average or below average. I'm not satisfied. This will happen. Your first 5 essays will not be even worthy of evaluation, and you can always skip it. After writing 4 5 essays, then you can go ahead for some the evaluation part. The team is there to support you. One more thing, when we speak of this essay writing and evaluation bit and all that, the other piece of insight which I can give you is, you many of you will struggle to write in 1100 words, like 1000 to 1200 word limit that is given by UPSC. Many of you might struggle even with that. So what should be done in that given situation? So you should like make a genuine effort. You should try to, I would say, write down the essay in a stipulated word limit. And what is it? What is it that we are speaking of? That is, you should try to, rather than writing like, let's say, something like 1100 words, you can try writing 400 words or 300 words. Start with that at least. At least start. Just start. After 400 or 500 words, you can expand it to 600 words, then 700 words. Bit by bit, gradually, you can move up to 1100 words. There's one more thing. Any topic on which you write an essay, your comprehensive understanding of that topic from general studies point of view also gets affected. So how about like preparing essays for those topics that have been taught in GS? Through that, revision of the GS topic will also happen. Your capability to write fluidly in a free flowing manner, recalling all the technical jargons of that, we can say, that given dimension can be incorporated, and then further you can substantiate it, right? And when you are able to substantiate the segments associated with, like, let us say, essay, I hope you all can like bring in some, I would say, due justice, some, I would say, meaningful justice associated with this initiative, right? So let us think about this given possibility when we are talking about it, right? So I hope all of you are able to understand this. Can you show one conversation essay example? Ashwin, I hope you got those examples. I gave you two examples, right? So I hope you are getting an idea how it can be done. Yes, okay, all right. So what is actually required with respect to these areas is practice. Practice is the key. No one can do the practice instead of you. And I believe, just imagine any topic. Suppose you have studied corruption in GS and you try to write an essay on corruption. Will it not be a great revision with respect to all the like concepts, all the segments that you would be preparing? And when you will be preparing, like, let's say, by writing on that topic, I believe that your capability to, like, creatively engage, your capability to write something meaningfully will be there. And like, even from the GS point of view, the content can expand. It will be kind of satisfactory for you that I'm able to bring in a lot of possibilities, I'm able to bring in a lot of wisdom, right? So that's how you're supposed to engage with this given area. All right, all right, all of you. Yes, I had got it discontinued. You were saying not being able to write 1,000 words initially. Oh, Samson, I was saying that get into the habit of writing regularly. Initially, it will not be 1,000 words, it will be 500 words, 600 words. But any GS topic which you are trying to develop as essay, any GS topic that has been taught in the class, when you practice it as an essay, not only the topic of that GS gets revised, and not only the wholesome understanding of that GS topic gets created, you are also able to reproduce something meaningfully. You are able to create a meaningful breakthrough for that topic. That's what I was saying. Okay, I have concern. Fair flow during typing on my laptop. It is high time I switch to actually writing it down. Yes, yes, yes. There's no match to writing, because in the exam you are not going to type, you are going to write. So the old school method of writing is essential. Anytime you want to like write anything, whether an essay or GS answer or make notes, try to do it more with the hand, with the pen. There are some very small breakthroughs that you get. Which pen is most suitable? Why not, like, jet pen or pilot pen, because the ink can spread. Which pen is relatively having a better grip, smoother grip. So many smaller things, smaller pieces of realization happen when we get into the mode of writing. There will be a time when you start writing and writing so much before your exam that you'll realize that your fingers, they will develop different ridges. Like, I remember in my time, when I used to write very frequently here, this part of the finger, it just got, like, this part, it just got rubbed in such a manner that there was a specific impression that got created. And I don't know how come it was like little light blue, maybe because the ink spread or whatever, but this part just got little impression. Now it's gone. But that's how the body also engages. The heat of preparation, it impacts us in so many ways. Yes, it was more like a cushion. So not a concussion, but yes, it was like a cushion. Yes. So after the introduction in conversation type, can we Start the body in normal manner, like definition, problems. So yes, yes, yes. After writing, we can say the introduction, like of conversation. Then you can just open the context of the conversation. Henceforth, we can realize that development is not merely about basic infrastructure, but also a wholesome understanding about the idea of development from humane perspective, the segments of administrative efficiency and security for all, like that. And then you can start developing the content. So opening the context of the conversation, that how is it relevant or how is it connected to the topic, should be given after giving the quotation or after giving the conversation or after giving the anecdote, short story, whatever you are giving as a creative reflect. After that, connect it to the topic, give an explanation and connect it to the topic. And when you are giving an explanation and connecting it, that's how you can generate the flow. All right, fine. So with respect to this, we can understand now types of conclusion. Types of conclusion is barely 10-15 minutes. This was the actual part, introduction. Because okay, because you'll understand just in a couple of minutes. Let's see. So when we are talking about the types of conclusion, first and foremost, you should understand all these types of introductions also qualify as type of conclusion. So, like, let us consider, okay, I'll show you certain types which is also given with respect to the toppers, the kind of possibility that they have created. So, just a second. Under the component of types of conclusion, first I would like to say all the types of introduction can also qualify as types of conclusion. For example, you can think of definition hai. So you can start it as redefining the term towards the end with a more exhaustive meaning. So redefine. Or you can end it with a quotation. Or you can, like, let us say, suppose you are writing, like, let's say, a question. So you can again put an end. It's not that you are starting with quotation, ending with quotation. No, there can be various permutation combinations. So this is the intro part and this is the conclusion part. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So maybe I should remove this so that no one gets confused that if in introduction it is quotation, it should end with quotation. No, no, no. You can start with historical background, end with quotation. You can start with a conversation, end with a fresh understanding of definition. You can start with a, like, let's say, a conversation, or like, let's say, an anecdote, and you're ending it with a set of questions. So it's not like that. When I say ending with questions, many of you might have a sense of feeling that will ending with questions give a sense of completion? Will it give a sense of closure? Will it sound like complete? If that's there in your heart, that is a very genuine kind of inquiry, whether it is relevant or not. How is it done when we speak of it? It can be done in this specific manner, like we all can understand that. Question or questions can be done towards the end when you are raising the final purpose, the prime purpose. Like, for example, if I were you, okay, then I would have written, like, let's say, suppose education as it should be. I've opened all the segments of education, challenges pertaining to education, suggestions and way forward associated with education, and all that stuff. And towards the end, I'm writing, now the question remains, will we be able to achieve the coveted goal of education through this step? Okay. Will India be able to realize a gross enrollment ratio of this? Okay. Will we be able to enroll our children to higher education, which is related to qualitative skill development? And after raising all those questions towards the end, I write down that the answer remains in the near future as we work towards it and unfold it. Full stop. Done. So that's also one of the ways through which people do write their conclusion by raising questions, but already the answers have been given, the suggestions have been given earlier. But towards the end, raising those profound questions and saying that the answer is yet to be answered on the basis of action that would be taking place in the near future. Got it, all of you? Yes. Furthermore, when we are speaking of it, we can substantiate more segments. Right. So, what segments can we substantiate with respect to this given area when we are talking about it? Right. So, let us see what segments can be added with respect to this. In this, as we are talking about it, yes. So, let us talk about the given dimension and can talk about it. So, second dimension related to it can be, we can consider. mm, After all of it, you can talk about, so all the types of introduction can also qualify as types of conclusion. Furthermore, I can suggest is that, okay, so the conclusion can be associated with the introduction to bring a spherical completion to it. How? So, like, let us say the topic is there, and from the topic, like, you are moving ahead, you are starting with an introduction. Like, let's say in the introduction, like, let's say you started with the grandma, grandpa conversation. Okay. And as you're starting with the grandma grandpa conversation, after engaging with it, like let us say after that introduction, you opened various dimensions of development, like let's say the history of development, the levels of development, the types of development, the, like let's say, the various sections of society related to development, the challenges or problems of development, like let's say the various dimensions of development, the, like let's say you opened up the segment associated with um, the quotients of development, and then after the quotients you have discussed the broader human values of development, and then towards the end you merge with the introduction. Henceforth we may say that after a critical reflection over the idea of development, we may say that if we are able to fulfill XYZ goals, we shall be able to. Now, try to understand that. If we are able to fulfill these XYZ goals, we shall be able to realize an India whereby the grandma and grandpa can go for a pilgrimage. All the youth of this country can have access to higher education, comma, employment opportunities, comma, safe and free environments, comma, and corruption free possibilities, and a space to breathe and grow continually. Full stop. So you started with grandpa conversation, you kept opening a lot of segments, and you got back and you merged there. You merged from where you had started. So that is what a spherical completion all about. Is it making sense, people? Are you all understanding it? Is it making sense? Yes, I hope so. Yes, right? Okay, so that is what we all can consider. Then, furthermore, third, you can say the conclusion. The conclusion can have a broader reflection of values, principles. Okay, we can say human realizations which brings gravitas, depth, and purpose towards the end. Right, more like a sunset clause, as I was sharing with all of you, that there should be a sunset impact when we are talking about it, right? Furthermore, we can talk about the conclusion can be in contrast with the introduction. The conclusion can be in contrast with the introduction. How? Let us see. So, like, let us say if we are talking about the two, suppose the introduction is like, let us say, something like it is talking about, like, let's say, past oriented incidents. So, it is past oriented. So, the conclusion can be future oriented. Suppose the conclusion, like introduction, is diagnostic. Diagnostic means it is speculating over the problems. Okay. Problem oriented. So the conclusion can be, we can say, prescriptive, or we can say solution oriented. Right. Or we can also say, like, let us say the introduction is associated with, like, let's say, realism. Okay, conclusion can be based on idealism, and when I say idealism, it is based on time tested principles, or we can say values. So time tested values or principles when we speak of idealism, not like any term which is idealistic is written. There is a relevance, or there is a reflection associated with it. Okay, so that's what we all can say in terms of types of conclusion when we are bringing in the wisdom accordingly, right? So that's what types of conclusion when we are talking about it, four types. And I said that it is very easy. It's very easy because once you know that what is the introduction and the types of introduction, you know what can be created here in conclusion. Actual thing is like discussing introduction, because there you don't have any clue how many types and what are the ways and what is the language and what is the creative possibility. And the more creative you are, the more effortless it is to get the marks. It's all about creativity. Hmm? That's what. Now, with respect to this, I'll show you certain examples which students have created in the past. Like, for example, we were discussing anecdotes. What are anecdotes? Anecdotes are like short stories that are relevant to the topic. So it should have, like, you should not write because it should be relevant to the topic. There should be ability to convey the message. It should be authentic, or it should be believable. It should be short. Crisp is very, very important according to me. Many people don't know how to write crisply. They expand unnecessarily. So crisp and meaningful. On this basis, you can see this like anecdote which is used by Nupur Goyal. So you can see what Nupur Goyal is writing in her essay. This is a brilliant example of a well meaning anecdote. So you can see this. It's like innovation as a tool for achieving inclusive growth in India. What is written? It's written in deep sandy area of Rajasthan. A man, Mansukh Bhai, is devastated after 2011 earthquake. It took away all he possessed: home, TV, fridge, etc. In scorching heat, there is an urge to drink cold water. But there is no electricity in the desert. Now, what to do? He initially thinks of having the hot water, instead considering the cold water to be a necessity. But suddenly he gets concerned about the thirst of thousands of poor who don't have access to electricity or fridge. Certain mistakes by the typist. Anyway, so there, comma, Mitti Cool fridge is born. Now, after this, she further writes with respect to this, okay, when we are talking about it, not only is it able to provide cold water, but also consumes no electricity. It comes as an answer to dire necessity and a thought to help others. Full stop. So, you all can see this introduction. This is an anecdote, a short story, engaging yet powerful, simple yet meaningful, and most importantly, it is having the Gandhian value. Because through the content that you write, we try to understand who you are as a person. What is your true personality? What is your true strength? Who probably you can be? What kind of strengths and weaknesses you may possess? The tendencies that you hold. You can see this. So, innovation as a tool for achieving inclusive growth in India. If I talk about this one, we all can see this in terms of what segments are created, right? So, here, when we are speaking of these segments, we all can see this, that innovation is also maintained in the topic, inclusive growth is also maintained in the topic, right? So, it is like so very relevant to the topic, first part. Second part, why did I say Gandhian value? Remember when Gandhiji was traveling from Durban to Pretoria, and despite having the ticket, when he was thrown from the first class due to racism, that he being a guy of color, a person of color, he should not travel by first class. And when he was kicked out of the train with the suitcase, with like all his belongings, he could have fought the case in private capacity, that I have been wronged and I am a lawyer, so I can fight my case, I can win a hefty compensation. He could have done that, right? But rather than seeing it as his personal crisis, he started thinking that this is not just my personal crisis, it is a crisis associated with millions of other people who are people of color. So it's not a crisis which has to be considered in privacy. There are so many individuals who are victims of the same problem. So I need to stand for the rights of all. It is only when I stand for the rights of all that I can bring about a creative difference in their lives, right? And it is then that from Mohan Das, he became Mahatma. It is then that he was able to flip his individual, private life, personal challenge or concern into a universal concern, a common problem suffered by many. And this kind of flip, when you are able to create in your essay, it is witnessed that you are a person of greater wisdom, It is witness that you are upholding larger values and ideals. It is able to be observed or seen that you are a person who would be creating a meaningful engagement for all the future possibilities. Right? So I hope all of you can see this. Yeah. So this essay holds that given possibility. The possibility of, we can say, holding the key segments, the core segments associated with the Gandhian principles and values. I hope all of you can witness this given dimension, right? We can further, as we are talking about it, you can see the example I had, like again, alternative technologies for a climate change resilient India. I'll be discussing about the given possibility of resilience and technology and all that. A lot of topics are there. Srushti Deshmukh's introduction I've shown you before the break, so I'll just skip it. Okay. um, Under the component of types of conclusion, I want to show this to you, that what Nupur Goyal wrote. That anecdote you have seen, now you can see this. But innovation cannot be a panacea for inclusive growth. We need to move towards value based education so that innovation is used for the good of the society. Full stop. It is up to us to make the next dynamite or atom bomb for destruction of all, or a satellite to help better communication. Full stop. Innovation, along with values like compassion, humanity, morality, empathy, care, environmentalism, are the need of the hour. Only then we will be able to realize our aim as given in the 12th five-year plan towards a faster, sustainable, and inclusive India. Okay. So, what is our aim? That's something which is given in 12th five-year plan. You can see this. I hope all of you are able to see this given subsegment associated with the dynamics of conclusion, right? I hope all of you are able to see that given possibility. Yes, yes, I hope that some kind of clarity is being brought. Fine? Okay, then moving ahead. Srushti's conclusion I had already shown to all of you. Then comes Netrajit's essay. So before I take up Netrajit's essay, I would like to introduce you to the next subsegment. After introduction and conclusion, I would like to introduce you to organization of an essay. So, with respect to that organization of an essay, what you can deal with is, if you want, you can read his essay. What we can do is, probably because you have again studied for an hour and a half, what you can do is you can silently read the essay. That will give you sense of relaxation, some kind of relaxation, because I understand entire day essay class that is starting from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m., it can be really exhaustive. Okay, so you can take your 2 minutes silence, read what he has written. It is over the screen, you can just read it. All right. So all of you read this, right? And as you like read this, I hope you got a comprehensive understanding of what is the language of the toppers, right? I think this was kind of enervating for many of you after seeing this kind of language, right? All of you could see that kind of words which is used by these toppers. Sometimes some of them are so rich with vocabulary. I'm just introducing this. There's a reason why I'm introducing this. Just get accustomed to what he has written, and then we'll talk about what is the issue. Okay. So, here, what is the issue means? Strengths, weaknesses, whatever. Now, what is real education? This specific topic. What is real education? Because education is a hotcake topic. It has been asked for like since times immemorial, last 30 years, so many topics of education, exclusively if we speak of it, right? So when I speak of the term what is real education, we all can see as sacrosanct as the goddess abode of goddess Saraswati, real education is an expression of man's eternal quest for perfection in very much its own rights. It is also the portrayal of man's evolutionary journey as he transforms himself from primitive barbarism into a civilized modern being. Full stop. And yet, a wide ranging perception on what constitutes true education merits debate. Full stop. Considering its indelible importance, comma, its nuances and connotations are often misinterpreted. Full stop. What then sets education apart from mere learning and gain of information? Question mark. For or for that matter, almost sadly, why should the need arise at all to emphasize on true as if there is also a looming nemesis of a false education? Right? All of you can see this. Simple. So, why is the need arising to discuss about true as if there is also a looming nemesis of false education? And then, simple. In our hurried pace, we seem to have foolishly accepted everything that apparently glitters as gold. Okay. Succumbing to vanity and hypocrisy, we have forsaken our virtues of human values. Knowledge weighs more than wisdom. The exercise of degree accumulation is more preponderant than the exercise of intellect. A physician perceives his patient who needs his healing hands to administer comforting touches more as a customer rather than a suffering brethren. Full stop. The spirit of education is already self defeated when its other half parameters of human side are relegated. Full stop. The inculcation of human values and ethics and convictions are as paramount a parameters of education. This is what this person has written. Can you discuss the strengths and the weakness of this essay? I've just showed you first 2 pages of the essay. I've not given the entire essay to all of you. I've just given the power of introduction and conclusion of at least 3 4 candidates in the forthcoming slides. There is a purpose to it. The purpose is to inspire you with respect to a lot of insights which toppers can create for you, the value addition they can create from the various sources, right? So, as you went through this given content, what was it that inspired all of you when you read it, people? What is it that really created a breakthrough for all of you as you were discussing about this given dimension? Yes, people, let me see. What is it? The positives, the weaknesses, both. The strength, the weakness, according to you. Let me see who comes up with what. Strength is the words he used in it. Okay, all right. So you are impressed by the vocabulary. Choice of words is commendable. All right, fine, fine. Something more? Strength, weakness, whatever we speak of it. Yes, people? Okay, the writing. Yes, writing is neat, it's clean. The vocabulary, the flow in which the essay is narrated, and the insights. Okay. The dimension of false education is a fresh inclusion. Agreed. Two long sentences. Okay, all right, Nitin. Fine. Okay, let me ease something more for all of you. Read only this first page. Okay, both the paras, first page, just read this part. Okay, I'll add what he has written: looming nemesis, and then he has further incorporated of a false education. Right? Read this, only the first page. Tell me the limitations and the strengths. Okay, it's attractive. All right, very good, Siva. So all of you are like seeing a lot of things which you can pick up from the essay, right? Okay, any limitations? Read this content once and just try to identify what is missing, what is there, which can be improved upon. Yes, if you want, I can just give it religious content in the introduction. Well, had he been discussing about religion per se, it would have backfired. Any religion, if you're quoting, like whether you are talking about Greek mythology and there the goddess of knowledge or wisdom, it will be acceptable. It won't create a problem. Or from Greek mythology, if you are using something coming from the Zen philosophy or the Japanese philosophy, that will be accepted. Not a problem. So, as sacrosanct as the abode of Goddess Saraswati, real education is an expression of man's eternal quest for perfection. So, as sacrosanct, you understand this year also in UPSC mains GS paper 1, Indian society, this question was raised. I created an open session related to it and I posted the link in my public channel also. I mean, the discussion of paper 1, Indian society. If you want, you can listen to that. It's like available for free and open for all. So, and also the content I have posted, content related to like answers of GS paper 1, Indian society. Anyway, so there you can see that GS paper 1 used this term sacrosanct. Is marriage a sacrosanct institution in the modern times? What is the impact on the institution of marriage? Okay, so that question has been asked. Anyway, so sacrosanct means something which is pure, pavitra. Okay, so as sacrosanct as the abode of Goddess Saraswati, real education is an expression of man's eternal quest for perfection. In very much its own rights, it is also the portrayal of man's evolutionary journey as he transforms himself from primitive barbarism into civilized modern being. Then after that, sanctum sanctorium, no, not sanctum sanctorium, Subhash. Sanctum is the inner, like we can say place, inner space in a temple or any religious institution where the most holy symbols, scriptures, materials are placed. That's a sanctum. Okay, when we are talking about sanctorium, again, what a Garbhagudi, yeah, like Garbhagriha, yes, Garbhagriha is called sanctum. Okay, but sacrosanct is not that. Sacrosanct means something which is pure, sacred, pavitra. Okay, so it's not like it's not related to sanctum. It is pure, something which is like clean, something sacred, not to be touched. So that's what. So he's connecting real education with something pure, something which, like, which is larger than life, sacred. Okay. Then you can further see, as I was discussing this part. So as you were reading this part, from primitive barbarism into civilized modern being, and yet a wide ranging perception on what constitutes true education merits debate. Considering its undeniable importance, its nuances and connotations are often misinterpreted. What then sets education apart from mere learning and gain of information? Yes, people. Preetish, are you there? Yes, Preetish, are you there? Because he came like a ripple And has he disappeared also like a ripple? Okay. Following one breath rule is missing in some places. Agreed. Agreed. Something more? Yes, people? Something more that can be created that all of you can see? चलो मैं ही बताती हूँ. Probably I should hyphenate that. Because you people are beginners, you might not take notice of this. See this. When we are speaking of this given dimension, instead of definition, he could use in other ways like anecdotes. No, no, it's okay. You can go with definition, not a problem. Anecdote is not an issue. See this. I'll show you. Mistakes, starting from small mistakes and then bigger mistakes. Because at your age, identifying those mistakes can be tedious. So, question form in second para, that's also not a problem. You can always, a question should be at the end of the paragraph. No, not really, because here you can see it's there. That's not a problem. Wait, just notice this. First, as sacrosanct as the abode of goddess Saraswati. Spelling. Okay, so here it should have been Saraswati. Real education is an expression of man's eternal quest for perfection. In very much its own rights, it is also the portrayal of man's evolutionary journey as he transforms himself from primitive barbarism. He himself, and then he himself is person. Barbarism is a state. A person cannot be compared with a state of existence. A person can be in the state of existence but cannot be compared with a state of existence. What I imply to say, those who cannot understand because of the tedious grammar which I spoke, you need to understand this. If it was rather than written primitive barbarism, it should have been written primitive barbaric. Okay, so he transformed himself from being a primitive barbaric into a civilized modern being, because we are talking about a being. So you cannot connect being with a state. Barbarism is a state of existence. Barbaric is noun. Okay. So from being a primitive barbaric into a civilized modern being. Okay. So like silly grammar mistakes, spelling mistakes, you can see that. So one mistake, mistake two, further see that. And yet, next mistake. Okay. So yes, from being a primitive barbarian also would have worked. If not barbaric, even barbarian would have worked, but not barbarism. Anyway, another mistake which all of you can see, which is here. So this is one, this is two, let's see, third one. And yet, a wide ranging perception on what constitutes true education merits debate. Now, and yet, the moment you write, you're connecting it with the previous statement. And when do we say that and yet? Like let's say any time when we are using the term and yet, the sense of continuity is what, that whatever is expressed earlier is not sufficient, it is not complete. That's why the debate continues, that's why the discussion continues, right? So when we are speaking of the debate or the discussion that it is continuing, we need to get into the, like, the state of affairs whereby we are discussing about, we can say, the core, like elementary reflections. Like for example, over here, when we are speaking of this given dimension, spelling mistakes considered or not, they are half marks can be deducted. I mean, if you are not writing correct spellings, and suppose one mistake, it can be done, second mistake is also there. No, see this, the spelling of nuances is nuances. Okay. So once in a while the spell error is there. Barbarism, barbaric. So this was also there. So how to ignore so many mistakes in the first para itself? Even over here you can see there was this and then parameters. You cannot write parameters. So it is parameter of, as paramount a parameter of education, not parameters. Here it should have been brethren, right, like this. So spell mistakes are there. If you are actually seeing that once in a while, those mistakes are there. Though half a mark or 1 mark can be deducted, not much. The other problem which all of you can see, avoid using high vocabulary. No, not really. Not really. Ashwin. Using good vocabulary is actually his strength, and that should be a part of your thought process. Using correct formal words will always bring greater marks. It's not like very high flying poetic vocabulary. No, it is not. It is just a formal vocabulary that should be there, and this standard ought to be maintained. The problem is something else. The problem is flow, organization of essay, the area which I'm going to start with. So, what is wrong with the organization of essay? You'll, by basic understanding of grammar, all of you can see this. Not just and yet, but also you can see this what then. You can see twice he has goofed up with the usage of conjunctions. Suppose if I'm saying the word and yet, when will I use the term and yet? Suppose I say that the school fees has been paid, and yet the principal has called my child into the staff room to seek clarification if the mistake will be committed once again. So, and yet the principal has called my child into the staff room. The moment I say this, think. So, and yet is what? A continuation of the previous statement. See here what he has written. And yet, a wide ranging perception on what constitutes true education merits debate. Now, my question is, when do we write what constitutes true education? Constitutes means what are the elements, what are the core elements, what are the segments, what are the features, what are the core parts. That's what is constituting. If I say what constitutes your body, then you'll be like various organs, bone, fiber, tissues, muscles. Constitutes means parts. And he is saying, and yet what constitutes true education merits debate, as if what constitutes true education has been discussed above. Did he discuss what constitutes true education? What are the subparts of true education in the previous sentences? Because we can write and yet what constitutes true education. If this thing was discussed earlier, then only we can connect it with the term and yet. The conjunction and yet can be used only if there is a continuity of the information. See this. He is discussing about impact of education, that how education can transform a person from barbaric state to modern state. He's talking about impact. He's not talking about elements or constituting factors of education in the previous sentences. Are you seeing that? So the question that he's raising is missing in the above sentences. And that's why any person who's trying to read it logically will suddenly feel a break, a pause, and be like, okay, content is fine. In first go, as a reader, you may not catch this problem. In the first go, you will be like, okay, you'll not take care of and yet, you'll remove it in your mind subconsciously. You'll be like, what constitutes true education merits debate. Means further, this boy is going to debate over what are the true components of education, or what is true education, what qualifies, what segments, what dimensions are added in true education. This boy will be discussing about it. That is what you consider, that is what you understand, right? So with respect to this, what happens is, suppose like I read this and I was like, okay, fine, there's something missing. Furthermore, as I move ahead, see this. Considering its indelible importance, its nuances and connotations are often misinterpreted. After that, now here also he is not talking about what constitutes true education. Okay, he's saying that it has a lot of importance, its connotations are important, but it gets misinterpreted. Fine, but neither before nor later he is discussing about what constitutes true education. That part is missing, that discussion is missing. It's just a fancy expression which got fitted in, and somehow it was not caught in the first go. Second go, you catch as an examiner. See this. What then sets education apart from mere learning and gain of information? So, what then sets education apart from mere learning and gain of information? Again, this part also would be valid if in the previous paras, if this was discussed. Is it discussed, you ask? And then, what sets education apart from mere learning and gain of information? So were the previous paras discussing that education is also empowering us, or education is also a part of, we can say, gaining information? Thank you. So is education a part of gaining information? Is education a part of, like, let's say, gaining a lot of insights or perceptions associated with what's unfolding or what's happening, right? Can we consider that? Let us understand this bit. Yes, people, can we consider that? Is it like consolidated? Is it given over here? Like, education is not mere learning or gain of information. Is it given in the previous paras? No, we don't see that. That education, with respect to it, is a process of gaining information, learning. That part, that discussion is missing. And still he is connecting in the next para with a conjunction. What then sets education apart from? So if I'm saying what is it that apart from general studies that you are studying? If I'm discussing in GS, you have to study like history, geography, polity, Indian society, economy, ethics. And what else do you need to study apart from general studies? Means I have already discussed what you have to study in general studies. Then only I can write the statement what then has to be studied apart from general studies. It makes a logical corollary. It makes a logic. It makes a flow. That is missing. Getting it? That's what. Using conjunction does not create a flow. What is the strength of the essay? So, like, in the first para, as an examiner, you can see the struggle to establish the connect. So an examiner will experience the strain in getting a sense of connect. You people, what happened was, when you read this explanation, when I was reading it, you were overwhelmed by the vocabulary. You're like, oh my God, the content is so good. Vocabulary is so good. This boy is writing so neatly. Handwriting is so good. You did not bother about the core of the content. We don't get surprised or alarmed by the vocabulary. That's not something which is charming us, because this is the basic level we understand. So problem is not related to connectivity with the vocabulary for us. We are looking for core reflections, core insights. And in the first two paras, we struggle to establish the connect with the essay. So this is what, in the first one para completely and the second also, we find it as independent sentences clubbed together. The flow is missing. Okay, we start enjoying the essay from the second para, last sentence, this one, when he is writing, like the topic is what is real education. Majority of the students will have a tendency to define what is real education. I really appreciate this stand whereby he has the wisdom to, like, take a step behind the topic and ask that if the topic is asking what is real education, is there also a possibility of unreal or false education? Means, when we speak of white, that means we know what is black. If we speak of bright, we know what is dark, right? So when, in the similar manner, if we are talking about, like, the possibilities associated with what is real education, that means we are aware of what is unreal education, right? Are you understanding this? Yes. So with respect to this, what is real education, right? Throat. So when we are talking about what is real education, when he is able to raise this question with respect to real, when he is able to connect it with, we can say, why are we talking about true education, as if there is also a looming nemesis of false education. You're like, wow, he can look behind the context of the topic. Not many students are able to open the context you reward the student for that. Other than that, then he starts explaining that what can probably be the reason that we are able to segregate true and false education or real and unreal education. What can be the probable reason? Then you really appreciate the connect, that we are talking about true education or real education, because probably today education has boiled down to just, like, grabbing degrees. When we speak of education, we think that it is consolidation of degrees. And when we consider that it is consolidation of degrees, then we are not having a humane touch. Like, you can be a doctor and you can see the patient as not as a suffering brethren, but maybe as a potential customer. Okay, same can apply to lawyers, same can apply to teachers, same can apply to various other people per se, right? So all of you can understand this bit when we are talking about this. So the flow starts getting created in the second page. In the first page, you can see the struggle as an examiner, that the child is struggling to organize the content. The child is struggling to build the basics of the content, right? I hope all of you can see this sense of, like, pauses and disconnect and presence of independent sentences which are very good. So you can see that he has given a good usage of sentence bank. A brilliant usage of sentence bank is there in his essay. This is what I call as a sentence bank. But along with the sentence bank, you need a flow, an undercurrent which is connecting all the concepts. Yeah. So what needs to be done? Okay. Hello, Guli Vendula. Glad that you joined the session. Now, what needs to be done with respect to this? So this takes us to our next piece of assignment, that is organization of essay. I hope you are understanding the importance now, that if you're having an independent set of statements, this is how we see it from our eyes, from our perception. This is what we are able to see. So let us head towards this piece of assignment with respect to it. Just a second, let me find some space. Okay, maybe I can use it in the next slide. Okay, before debatable essays, of course, organization of an essay. How do we organize an essay? There are certain steps. First, I'll write it down and then I'll explain it. All right. Now, um, sorry. Yeah. See this. First and foremost, identify the next 2 points after the introduction and the 2 points before the conclusion. They should be the core ideas, or we can say spirit, of the essay, to bring out meaningful reflections in the essay, right? Right? Then, second, you can write down now identify the content. Now identify the content to be written in between. The order should be as such that the important points come towards the start, comma. The miscellaneous in between the core reflections, suggestions, wisdom towards the end. Okay, fine. All right. Now, with respect to this, then you are writing allocate, allocate more words to the important slash core points. Full stop. This process should be done. This process so this process should be done by blending the the introduction, no wait, by blending the, we can consider brainstorming and brain mapping sheets. The process of identification of the order of the points, of the order of the points should be done, on a separate piece of paper. Then after that you can write down now run through the order of the points along with along with the word limit prescribed to each point. Along with the word limit prescribed to each point. In the process, in the process, there can be a situation. Okay. So in the process, there can be a situation whereby there whereby the word limit is close to 1180. If so, remove few miscellaneous points slash examples. If the word limit is close to 1020, then add few miscellaneous points or examples that have been left. That have been left. And the seventh, last but not the least, that is now run through the order. Run through the final order of the essay. If there is a need to reshuffle, if there is a need to reshuffle, this is the final opportunity. This is the final opportunity to do so. Fine. Now you can write the essay. The final draft of the essay can be written. Now, what I wrote, please try to understand. Understand the explanation of it, understand the logic behind it. And that is how you can actually substantiate the core component related to essay writing. See what I have written and what you have got to understand, what you have got to create a sense of connectivity with in this given area, right? So in this given subsegment, as I have written organization of an essay, first and foremost, please understand, no book actually speaks of this detailed approach of organizing the essay. When I had to actually come up with this given dimension regarding organization of an essay, what I personally realized, in fact, I'll tell you, it happened so that I spoke to my professor. I mean, like, he had been teaching, and he had been teaching since 1991. Okay. So I started teaching in 2009. So I spoke this to him, that, sir, in 2013 I said so. I was like, sir, students are not practicing enough, and they, they don't know how to organize the essay, the flow is missing, da. So he was like, see, you have been, I have done 3 masters, one of them has been literature. So he said, you have been a student of literature, so the flow, of language will definitely or inevitably be there in you. But thing is, with students, they are belonging to different backgrounds. I was like, yes, sir, agreed. He's like, have you, when have you written an essay yourself last time? It's like, from where is that question coming? So, like, sir, it's been some time. He's like, what some time? Tell me. So I smiled. I was like, maybe a year or so. Then he said, okay, this time, please go home and try to write an essay. And as you're trying to write an essay, while writing the essay, follow every single step, that how a student might be visualizing that step, how a student might be struggling with that specific step, what kind of explanation should be given to a student in that step. When you start writing the essay and visualizing it from student's point of view, you will get a grip over the challenge which a student might be suffering, and the kind of breakthrough you are supposed to give to the child. Now, that was a very profound advice. So, when I wrote the essay, I realized the problem associated with organization of an essay. I realized that if you are not, a pro, if you have not written an essay in past couple of years, as majority of you yesterday were claiming that, ma'am, I have written an essay, I have written an essay during my school days or my college days. So such students, when suddenly they are exposed to UPSC essay and then 12 pages or 16 pages or 18 pages, the kind of confusion that you feel, that's unavoidable. And how to overcome that confusion? So the steps which I have written over here, it is like self created. It's like not borrowed from some book, some institution here and there. No, that's why in organization of essay, majority of the essays you'll see, essay books, they will be saying that, create a flow, there should be a logic, the paras should be related, one point should lead to another, all that stuff, 3 4 points they'll write, done. That's what essay books write in a standard protocol. But thing is, how to create that flow, how to connect one para with the other, how to, have a tendency whereby I'm keeping a firm grip over my word limit, how to create that. This is my solution. It's not necessary this becomes completely your solution. You can always improvise to these points, you can always add or subtract few of the points as per your practice, as per your suitability. This is just a tentative proposal given by me to all of you. All right. And in this process, how to create that? Okay. Previous slide, very first word, please. This is identify. And in the next, now run through the order of the points. Right. That's what is written. Abhinav. I hope you can see that. Now, with respect to this one, like how you are supposed to do. See this. First slide, I told you yesterday, brainstorming. So, like, let's say in brainstorming, there is a random spray of points. You've just written a lot of points here and there, right? Suppose the next slide, which is like brain mapping, all of you are aware of this brain mapping again. So it is a structured thinking whereby from the point you start taking out like past, present, future, then you are taking off levels of the society, then sections of the society, then challenges associated with a topic, then you are thinking about the types, after the types you are thinking of dimensions, after dimensions quotients, after quotients broader human values and principles, right? Okay. So a lot of points are again consolidated here. Abhinav, is it clear? The question that you asked, is it clear? Now, so brainstorming, mapping, you have done. Another piece of page, and in this page, you have done like introduction, right? An introduction, suppose you have written a tentative framework of what, tentative insight you will be creating in your essay. And then there is this segment of conclusion. In the segment of conclusion, again, there are a list of words that you have consolidated. Now, what needs to be done? After these, like 3 pages, organization, how it has to be done, you have to take the fresh sheet. Now, what I'm advising is identify that after the introduction, what should be the next 2 points? And before the conclusion, what should be, like, let us say, the points which should be just preceding it. So, like, let's say if I find out that, okay, this is the introduction and best suitable point, like, let's say, let me change the color. So, let's say I find that, oh, this one will be very good after the introduction, and this also will be good after introduction. Right. And suppose I find that something from the brainstorming sheet also can be picked up. This will be also good after introduction. So, suppose I'm writing A1, A2, and this one is also A3. I'm finding something over here which is good like as the second para of the introduction. So I write down B. Okay, so suppose I've written after introduction, this is introduction, then A is having three subparts, and then I'm writing B. Simultaneously find that before conclusion, if this is the conclusion, what should be before the conclusion? Just last two paras, which will create the right hit and continuity towards the conclusion. Find those two paras, find those two ideas. Suppose you find out that here certain ideas are there which can qualify as Z, here also something is related to Z, here something is related to Y, here also something is related to Y. Let us consider. So like you have written Z, suppose 2 points you have taken out, and suppose Y also you have taken 2 points. So this is how you are blending the brainstorming and brain mapping sheet, blending and then borrowing the wisdom together. One of the sheets you can keep writing, suppose there are various subpoints, so you can always write down like y1, y2, y3, whatever, or ya, yb, small a and b. Okay, and then you can just small a, small b, just reminds me of that meme, that little kid who was like singing and writing small w, capital W. I don't know, somehow there was something about that kid that went ringing, and very cute, and I really liked that. Anyway, anytime now I use the word capital W and small w, or capital A and small a, I'm just reminded of that kid. I don't know how many of you watched that kid's video. It's kind of very cute. So with respect to this, as we are talking about it, so you have already identified six paras, right? So after introduction you have identified the insight, and like two paras after the introduction, and you have also identified like two paras before the conclusion. So your six paras are already done. That's like done and closed, right? Now after that you have to identify the paras in between. What I like advised to all of you is that you pick up the insights from in between, blend brainstorming and brain mapping, keep blending the segments together. You will find a lot of insights in both the areas. Try to prioritize most important points in A, B, and little later. Okay, like let us say C, D, E, F, G should be some very important points which are very close to the topic, relevant to the topic. Okay, similarly, like if I'm talking about it, so like let's say you are like coming up with a lot of points, so H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, suppose, and after that you don't have much points. After I suppose you don't have enough points, like all the points are exhausted in this, put a dot dot dot, connect it with Y, and see to it that the last 2 3 points, like let's say QRS, should be important points, and over here CDEF, they should also be good points. So all core points should come like little before and little towards the end. In between you can stuff up all the miscellaneous points, other segments or other domains which are not so, like we can say, so very important to the core. But first 3 pages after the introduction, first 3 pages, see to it important, relevant, core discussions are brought up. Okay, and like the last 2 3 pages before the conclusion, they should be like something like wholesome, critical reflection, suggestions, wider wisdom, broader wisdom which you want to bring in the topic. Keep all of it, right? Now, and there can be various sub dimensions also, like H can have 2 parts, K can have 2 3 parts, like N can have 2 parts, like that. That possibility will be there. And then identify the total word limit that you would be using for each para. After assigning the total word limit, like let us say you have identified the total words, let us consider for a while that the total words, suppose, is boiling up to, okay, like let's say 1180. Then you are in a risky proposition. Why? Because the tentative word limit that we imagine for a sentence, like let's say you have written education dash infrastructure, I'm just saying, we have discussed points, like let's say we have discussed development, right? Grandpa grandma conversation, remember? So they were discussing that development is not just about infrastructure, it's also about social security, transparency in administration, corruption free environment, security for everyone, right? Girl child education, higher education, employability, right? So you've just written the keywords, not the entire sentence. Okay, education, or rather development, true meaning. infrastructure question mark, and then you're like plus plus, and then you're writing education, security, whatever dimensions you have to open, you've written the keywords. Now you're seeing the sentence, you're like, if I'm writing this sentence, how many words will I take? So mentally, when you visualize the sentence, education is, sorry, development is not mere fixing and developing the infrastructure, but also, and then you're like thinking this 6 7 words more, so you're tentatively you're imagining it will be 20 like words in the sentence. So that's how you visualize every single point, and that's how you assign marks to words to every point. So like let's say the first para of the introduction, suppose it's going 60 words, then the A point, it is too swell with three subparts, so maybe 75 words. Then after that, B will be like 25 words, C is like suppose 40 words, again a D is like another 30 words, like that you're just going on and on. And how are we assigning 20 words, 25, 40, 30? We are seeing the point, we are imagining how many sentences, two sentences, three sentences, four sentences. How many sentences do we need to substantiate that concept? If we need a lot of sentences, then we can assign more like words. If we need lesser sentences, we can assign lesser words. Is that making sense, all of you? Yeah. So with this given approach, when we are adding, like let's say, a lot of words, and we are like substantiating a tentative word limit to each and every point, suppose it is 1180. Why did I say that 1180 or something close to it is a risky proposition? Because any time, suppose you elaborate a point, you explain a point, you get into little extra detail of a point. In that situation, as you are elaborating upon a point, there can be a possibility whereby we all can see that in the process of reading it, you realize that the point is becoming little stretchy, because in the process of writing, sometimes our language may expand. If you're expanding it, it will cross 2000, like 1200, it will cross. And please remember, bureaucracy is about respecting the rules. Now the question that should arise in your heart is the examiner calculating the words? Well, no, not really. No one is actually calculating each and every single word, but we sense how many words you can write in a page. If suppose we are seeing that there are 5 words and there are 12 lines, we'll be like 60 words. 14 lines tentatively, we'll be like 70 words. So we will get a general idea of your one page. If the page is becoming dense, we will think 80 words. If the page is becoming light, like you've written something and then towards the end you've left, like the para is over, you've left, you started with another page, and there could have been 2 3 lines that would have been fitted in. We sense that okay, 10 20 words, 10 15 words are less. Okay. So we all can always sense that what is the tentative word limit a child is exercising. That's why rather than 1200, if you write 1220 or 1230, we cannot catch that 30 words are extra. No, not really. But if it is like 1250 or 1260, there will be a visible, sizable paragraph that would be written extra. And it will be visible that it's looking little lengthy. Please remember, examiner has very clearly, the examiner has stated that the answer, the essay should be between 1000 to 1200 words. So the fluidity of word limit is already created. That's why I keep repeating since yesterday that it is a 1100 word exercise. So 1100, if I imagine, then if it is going little swell, I'll accept it. If it is going little less, then also I'll accept it, because it will be within the word limit of 1000 to 1200 words, right? So you have to be like little easy. You have to be little comfortable with this given idea that if something is getting like little stretchy, little substantial, how you can fix the core segments, right? So any mistake in the middle of the essay, we strike that word or keep the bracket on the word. Ah, it's okay. You can always strike it down. No problem. One single stroke anywhere from the beginning to the end of the essay. If you have written a word by mistake or there is a difference in the flow, any kind of problem, you can always strike through the words. It's okay. It does not bring any negative mark. We do not think, what has this student written? It's okay. Anyone can write a sentence which is like not properly framed or something is going wrong. That does not invite negative marking. What invites negative marking is writing incorrect sentences, improper sentences, mixed up sentences. Okay. Words like is, are, am also included. Yes, 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 Nitin. You tell me, Nitin, if I use this specific like statement. See this education. Okay. I gave this topic to all of you. So education colon as it should be. This was the topic that I gave you. Let me change it. Education as it is, or education as it can be. So the moment I'm changing should to is, will it impact the content of the essay, Nitin? Will it impact the content of the essay? Like connecting, like altering should with is, or altering should with was. Will it impact the content? Education as it should be. We are aspiring what should be created for education. What an education as it is what? The present reality. So when it is education as it is, we have to talk about the present state of existence, the present strengths, weaknesses, possibilities, but the present reality. What is happening right now? It is less to do with past, less to do with future. The topic is mainly focused on the present reality the moment I write education as it is. Or if I give the topic education as it was. So, was means only talk about the history. What was there, what possibilities were there. Even if I have to connect it to present, I have to talk what was there which has led to the present. Even if I have to talk about the future, I have to discuss what was there which will shape the future. Okay, so whatever I want to like discuss, it has to be in the light of was. Are you understanding that, Nitin? If this domain was not a part of your thought process, again, education as it can be. Can is potential, can possibility, should is ideal, what ideals need to be achieved. And education as it can be means the potential is there, it's just that we are not working towards it. Should be is the ideals we aspire to achieve. The topic is not the same. And those students who will just see education and they'll start writing education, they will fail to justify the topic. Marks will be deducted. So, as why did I give this example to all of you? I could have just said yes, no to Nitin and I would have walked off. No, because a little word like is can also alter the content of the essay. Do not underestimate the power of small words like is, am, are, and the. They can alter the meaning like anything. There was a topic with respect to this given dimension in CSAT comprehension. That was Pisaster C star. I still remember that. So UPSC had asked the topic. I mean, the essay started. It was related to keystone species, and the topic started that. The very first sentence, it said that keystone species can be found in an ecosystem. Now, mind the word in an ecosystem. And then later they say that in an aquatic ecosystem, the keystone species can be found as Pisaster sea star. And then a lot of content was given. Anyway, like so on and so forth. UPSC asked a question. Keystone species are exclusive to aquatic ecosystems. Statement 1. Statement 2 something, statement 3 something. Combination was given. Should we consider statement 1 as correct? Keystone species are exclusive to aquatic ecosystems. Now, anyone reading the passage, CSAT passage, would have thought entire passage, except the first sentence, entire passage was about Pisaster sea star and how Pisaster sea star is a keystone species in the aquatic world. So, reading that passage that it is about Pisaster sea star, it is a keystone species, it is in the aquatic world, a person could have thought that keystone species is an exclusive feature of aquatic ecosystem. But no, the first sentence clearly said in the CSAT comprehension, keystone species can be found in an ecosystem. What is an? An means any ecosystem. it can be aquatic, it can be land, it can be air. And this is the level the examiner wants you to focus from CSAT level itself, from prelims level itself. Why do so many students fail in CSAT passage? They don't know how to read powerfully and how to interpret language powerfully. Essay is a later day game. You mess up with CSAT passage, and suppose you pass because of maths, reasoning, whatever. You qualify and come for mains level. You can't pass mains. Why you can't pass mains? Because of this reason. You will not be able to interpret the essay topic correctly. Maths is not asked at mains level. Maths prelims, ho gaya, finish. But CSAT comprehension, it continues in mains and interview. In mains, it continues as interpretation of essay topic, interpretation of GS questions, interpretation of optional questions. In interview, whatever the examiner is asking, are you able to interpret it, comprehend it? What is comprehension? Capability to interpret, capability to understand. If you don't understand, you don't interpret it powerfully, there will be a definite impact with respect to the marks that you get. Need I improve my grammar first? Work on the grammar, Chituri. I'll tell you, Chituri, don't be demotivated if you have done the schooling from Telugu medium school. Let me tell you, yesterday also I said that to you, that there are students from Bengali medium, Assamese medium, Punjabi medium, like, Gujarati medium, different medium vernacular students, and they have the same issue, that they have to prepare and they have to compete with the English medium students, writing the paper in English and like struggling with the basics. Even a lot of English medium students, they know grammar by fluke, by chance. They don't remember the rules, the regulations. Like this statement that I said, that keystone species is found in an ecosystem. I mean, 80% students miss the word an and the importance of the word a and an. Like, for example, you ask Nitin, Nitin, could you understand this before I explained it? That there is a problem by writing an, there is a different meaning to the sentence by writing an, aquatic and land and like, this like aerial ecosystems are incorporated. See this? He doesn't know. He knew it when I explained it. And suddenly he realized, oh, an has a distinct importance. And it is not something which is, please understand, it is not something that you need to know the rules of grammar. You need to understand application of grammar. It is the application of grammar which brings about a change. It is the application of grammar which like, creates a breakthrough for you in terms of understanding and interpreting the segments carefully. Okay, so all of you have to pay attention to every single word. Okay, and like you have to understand the relative importance, because see, civil services is what it is about: alertness. We want alert, vigilant, upright civil servants who are like paying attention to everything that is being spoken to them, from the masses to the media to the people to the bosses to the juniors. Being alert and attentive, gauging and interpreting, comprehending what they imply to say. A civil servant who's smart at interpreting people's intentions will be the person who will be like a pro in decision making. You can sense that. For me, it is just and should be just before a vowel sound. Oh, so see, like Nitin understands that an is before echo, because echo is like when we are talking about vowels and consonants, because it's ecosystem, that's why it's an. If it would have been another word like stand, it would have been a. That's it. That's what Nitin understands. There is a comprehensible meaning to it. There is an interpretation to it. And Nitin is just symbolic of, I would say, 80% of the students who actually think like that, which like we know because we have seen this batch after batch, like students experiencing this threat, experiencing this challenge. So, just like CSAT passages, in the similar manner, in essay, every single alphabet matters. It alters the meaning of the essay in terms of what needs to be interpreted or what content needs to be elaborated. Not tough words, Tough words have their own game. Even simple words, what is the purpose of using it in a specific manner? What is the relevance of it? Though I will keep elaborating that, I will keep empowering you with these insights, so that the moment we are wrapping up with these areas, you are like sound with a profound understanding of these application of these words, right? So, as I was discussing, that when the words are tentatively, we are not counting each and every single word, but we have a tentative understanding that this is what probably the child holds as a potential. And when we understand that this is the potential of the child, we can understand that this is what the child has created. So if it is like, let's say, rather than 1180, if it is like 1210, 1230, we won't sense it. 1250, it becomes visible. One full para is extra. Couple of sentences extra here and there, few words fitted in, none. No one can catch. But why you should stick to the word limit? Because civil services is honoring rules and regulations. Civil services is honoring the process. If the process and the rules and regulations lay down that respect this word limit of 1000 to 1200, please do respect it. Not respecting the word limit is like inviting fury upon yourself. Simple. In normal situations, no one will be able to catch it. But it is little extra, it will be caught. So how about this given possibility that the moment you see 1180, you yourself cut down few points? Some miscellaneous points from this area can be reduced, can be taken off, or examples can be squeezed down. You can reduce the volume of words you are attaching to each point. Something can be done for the in between area. Let us consider, or it is 1020. So if it is less also, then the same issue. What if your language becomes too abbreviated? You start writing in more gists, and rather than 1020, you end up writing 980, or you end up writing like, let's say, 940. In that situation, again, a loss can be created, right? So till the time it is 980, it is tough to gauge. 940, it can be visible. It's looking little small. So whenever you are like understanding such a possibility that the word limit may be compromised, just add some more volume, add few extra points which you had left in brainstorming, brain mapping, considering it not to be so relevant, or some example you felt that, oh, it will unnecessarily stretch my essay. You can always incorporate that point, but not towards the beginning or end, somewhere in between. That's what. Now, after doing this exercise, what you should do, run through the order. Mentally visualize, I'll write this in introduction, then followed by this para A, then after this content, I'll open B, then visualize after that, then next, then next, then next. Keep mentally visualizing. There can be a possibility that you are seeing a point, like let's say M, and you feel that, oh, it is more relevant if it is placed after E. You can always take it up. So if there is any space or scope for, like, let's say, reshuffling, this is the final space. This is the final area where you can reshuffle. After this, probably the component of reshuffling may be missing. Okay. The component or the possibility to reshuffle, it may go missing later. Okay. When we are speaking of it, the possibility of reshuffling, when we are talking about it, okay, there is a space, there is a scope that you can reshuffle the content only to a certain degree, only to a certain extent, once you have like started writing. So it's better that do the reshuffling beforehand if needed. It's not necessary everyone has to reshuffle, but sometimes it happens that when we are reading the content, because once we thought brainstorming, brain mapping, and we started writing it down here in the sheet. Second time, when we are seeing that the flow, the order, we are visualizing, and the number of words we are assigning to every point, to every para. So second time we visualized the point and its order. And third time we are visualizing before starting writing the fair version. So when we are third time visualizing it, there can be a possibility it may strike, because we are now becoming thorough with the content. The flow is getting built in our mind. So there is a possibility you may feel that this point, if placed above, or this point, if placed below, it will be great, it will be better. That sense can be there. If so, okay, that if so, then you just organize the points accordingly. If not, if you feel that somewhere the organization of the points can be compromised, if you feel like that, okay, don't like reshuffle it, don't touch it. Touch it only when you feel that it will bring greater coordination. Then only you can like have the freedom of reshuffling the points. All right, I hope all of you are understanding this, right? So this is what I have written, and this is what I have explained to all of you with respect to these points. You can read it once, just give a quick read. Meanwhile, I'll just see what Samhita has written. Okay, so I hope all of you are seeing this makes sense. Point one, then point two, right? Then you can see the point three. Fine. So whatever is written, I hope that's making sense to all of you. All right. You can just read the sixth and seventh point. Now, Samhita, as you are asking, that you were always under the impression that conclusion should be thought of after writing the entire essay, so that it is made effective. It should be conceptualized after the introduction. Well, Samhita, you tell me something. Brainstorming, it happened randomly. Okay, this is a random brainstorming. Like after being very thorough with the topic, when you started memorizing the topic, suddenly there was a flow of ideas that you started writing down. Just a spray of ideas. You just write those ideas as it flows inside you for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever is the wind. Okay, so you just noted down those points of random brainstorming. Then comes structured thinking. Structured thinking is brain mapping. That is all the details of the essay, all the segments of the essay, connecting it with all possible areas of GS, right? That's like detailed brain mapping. And when you are like opening all the segments associated with the brain mapping, all the details pouring in, and then you are enlisting it. So you have actually thought of the entire content which is going to be written in the essay, the 90%. You've already thought it. Whether it is flowing out as a random brainstorming or it is getting connected in an organized thinking called brain mapping. After that, from that content, when you are thinking what is the best introduction, then you are able to think of all the possible creative solutions which will be like forbearing all the points that will follow it. So how to create a powerful start? You are thinking of introduction. Now you have all the segments in your kitty. You have introduction, you have all the content of the main body in the form of brainstorming and brain mapping. So are you not capable to think of the conclusion? So is it that we are thinking introduction and then conclusion? Or is it not that we have thought of all the details of the points? We have thought of introduction. So technically we have thought introduction, all the details which has to be written in between. And then towards the end, we are thinking conclusion. Towards the end, after thinking of all the segments, then we are thinking of the conclusion, right? So when the thinking part and like let's say enlisting part, not just thinking, you are enlisting also. In random brainstorming, you're enlisting the points. In brain mapping, you're enlisting the points. So in introduction, when you're conceptualizing, you're writing it down, and in the conclusion, you're again conceptualizing certain segments, and then you're writing. So when you're thinking of conclusion, it's like entire essay has been built. The castle has been built in your mind. The structure and the plan of that castle has been enlisted in points in the pages. So you are capable to structure the conclusion as well. All right. I hope that's done. Fine. So, with respect to this, I hope all of you are understanding organization of the essay. And organization of the essay is making profound sense to all of you. Now, few students they ask this question that, ma'am, what should be the relevant source which we can refer to? We can refer to it and we can like read it and we can probably make more sense out of it. So, when we are doing essay, should we purchase a book? Few students ask that. Well, see, there is already so much of content that you have to study and prepare. I personally feel that purchasing a book will go as a waste. Why? Because a book can have 200 essays, but in the exam you can get some 400th or 800th version of the essay, right? So having a book is not something which will build the given possibility. Second thing is, you'll be like, but then how to get inspired by good quality essay? Well, you're reading newspapers. Guest editorial articles are written like essay. NCRT books, 11th and 12th standards specifically. A lot of chapters are written in the style of an essay, whereby there is a comprehensive flow with suitable subtitles, which are very creative subtitles, and there is a flow related to the entire subsegment. If you see it from that perspective, from the perspective of an essay. Third source, which I can share, can be associated with Yojana. Yes, the Yojana magazine. I'll show this. I've created something for all of you. So just a second. Not here. Just a second. Before the philosophical essay, I had consolidated the content. Hold on. Yeah, this one. So when we are speaking of the Yojana, you all can see, I have been informed by students only that you can always like zoom in and zoom out. So I will be showing how the editorials of Yojana, which is the most ignored part of Yojana, also is written like an essay. Because see, the editor, what he does is he thinks of a topic, he proposes to all the intellectuals, think tanks, ministries, academicians, that if they can contribute with some meaningful article for that issue. Everyone sends the article, the editor reads those articles, sorts out which are the best ones and which should get published. And when the editor, creates a synopsis, creates a gist of those editorial articles. Okay, when we can see the editor creates a possibility, I would say a synopsis, a possibility of creating a gist related to those articles. What happens due to that? So we all can see that because of that given possibility, when we are talking about let's say consolidating the articles, we all can say that the editor reading all those articles, when those articles have to be published in that month, the editor has a comprehensive understanding of the topic, herself or himself, and then the editor writes the editorial. So the editorial is less like the Yojana articles. Yojana articles are more like GS answers, a basic introduction, various segments, various challenges, way forward. But editor writes in the fashion, in the style of an essay, and more like a 650, 700 word essay, generally something around 650, a little less, a little more. You'll be like, ma'am, but in the exam we are getting 1100 word essay. Yes, the other inside articles of Yojana will be giving you elaborations of details of different segments of the same topic. So more content, more example, more critical reflections coming from the articles. You'll at least read 2 to 3 articles inside the magazine. An editorial is written like an essay. So the moment you are fixing the details from the inside articles, an editorial is written like an essay. Your essay like introduction, overview, approach is established. So I feel that rather than buying any new book, whatever sources are already available to you, start reading it, seeing it, observing it from the eyes of an essay, right? Interpreting it from the perspective of an essay, whether it is a news article. I've seen quite often Indian Express and The Hindu articles are written from the writing style of an essay. Same applies to like sometimes the NCRT books, the chapters, they are written sometimes like an essay. So a student who is wise enough, rather than adding more burden, purchasing one more book, And after like a century or so, when people are digging, and from the section of books comes one book covered in the dust, people are removing collection of essays. Why to like create so much of archaeological proofs that you had prepared for this exam, whereby a fresh book is coming out which was not touched, or enough notes was prepared? Will it not be better that you, like, have limited sources but exhaustive sources? You have used it and squeezed out the best of the source, from GS perspective, essay perspective, critical reflection. So read everything to its totality, to its last limit. Okay, Jyoti is asking, ma'am, is it compulsory that conclusion should be of way forward? No, not really. Other than way forward, you can conclude with respect to a comprehensive wisdom that you gain from the topic, learning insights that you gain from the topic, rather than suggestions for future. Way forward is what? Suggestions for future. You can write suggestions for future, and then you can conclude with the wisdom, the broader insight that you have gained. Maybe the, like, you can like put an end with respect to a quotation or something like that, some broader wisdom. Okay. Again, Nitin is asking that for practice, can we use GS topics for writing essay? While writing such essays, the process of brainstorming and brain mapping needs to be used. Yes. Yes. If you're not very confident in the initial go to write topics of social issues, or topics of, like, let's say, ethical or value based insights, definitely you can start with, I would say, more exhaustively, you can start with the insights that would be pouring from like, let's say, other relevant sources of GS, like polity, science and tech, okay, human geography, any such segment, art and culture, you can incorporate. Because writing practice will improve, flow of language will improve, recalling the right set of words, vocabulary, sentence formation, all that will happen. If you're able to write, like, let's say, 600, 700 words, bit by bit, like, content is growing. And then when you are, like, graduating to the social issues topics, and then, like, let's say, graduating to the value based ethical topics, it will make sense, it will stay with you. Okay, that's the insight that I can provide, Nitin. Right? See this introduction, all of you. Very briefly, I'll not read this entire bit. I'm not interested to read entire bit. Just the introduction and conclusion set, and you will get an idea how it is written in the fashion of an essay. Right? So the new world order. This was written. You can see Yojana, October 2020. So after pandemic, you can sense that, right? See this. What is written? The pandemic has changed the world order. Okay, so the pandemic has changed the world and its order. A world which was earlier grappled with issues like climate change, poverty, migration, terrorism, nuclear weapons, has kept everything else on back burner. You can see this expression, it's so profound, that earlier, before COVID, these were the issues which everyone was talking about: climate change, poverty, migration, terrorism, nuclear weapons. Right? And you can also see the expressions, good words like grappled with, the world grappled with. You can use these expressions in IR, internal security, polity. Think. That's how you work upon your vocabulary, word bank, sentence bank, like, expressions. Put everything else on the back burner. So any topic in which you want to prioritize an issue and sideline all other issues, you can use this expression, putting everything else on the back burner. Right? So you can see sentence bank, vocabulary, it gets built. And it's so true the way it has been written. Believable, simple, engaging, formal. Now, further you can see. The health emergency and its ramifications are at the center stage. Words like ramification, if it's not a part of your vocabulary, consolidate that. See this. This unprecedented situation worldwide has redefined the international relations and the role India would play in the years to come. Right? Further, with Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Now you see the quotation is given in another language, translation is provided. The world is one family. As the basic tenet of our foreign policy, India is committed to work towards paving a road ahead for a world in the post pandemic era. Simultaneously, it has to safeguard interests of its own by achieving self reliance and self affirming and reaffirming its presence in international trade. Okay, and achieving self reliance and reaffirming its presence in international trade. Right? All of you can see this? Fine. Then see the last para over here. Gandhiji in 1924. You can see this. So you can see the introduction. It's so profound. Quotation, all the core areas. See the last para. Then towards the last, you can see Gandhiji in 1924 wrote that my ambition is nothing less than to see international affairs placed on a moral basis through India's efforts. He believed that there was no limit to extending our services in our neighbors across state made frontiers. Full stop. God never made these frontiers, he wrote in Young India in 1925. It is impossible for one to be internationalist without being a nationalist. So it is ending with a quotation, right? When have you seen any Yojana article to start with some kind of like this kind of language and end with a quotation? Never. That's why I said, unlike other Yojana articles, the editorial is like a model essay, a crisp short essay which is like 660 50 word, on a high side 700 words. And if it is like clubbed with points which are given inside in 2 to 3 articles, core points, if we pick those points and if we paraphrase it in between, it's like 1,000 1,100 word essay comfortably, right? That's what. How much is 500 words? Couple of like paras added. That's it. So, like, rather than like getting into too many sources, you are already like loaded with sources. Just use it to the best of your limit. Now, my question comes. Suppose you have to write an essay related to development. Forget about Dada Dadi conversation and all that, which I had shared previously. My question is, suppose you have to write an essay related to development, right? What would be your definition? What would be your encapsulation of all the points? What tentatively would you write to define the word development? I want to see it, people. What would you write to define the word development? Yes, people? How would you write the segment of development? Okay, growth. All right. Something else? Growth, improvement. All right. Development means growth. Development is multi-dimensional growth, though. It's not unidimensional growth. Yes, people? Something more that you would have written? I know majority of the people would have written the component of development by connecting it with inclusive development or the concept of inclusivity, whereby all the vulnerable sections are incorporated. Or someone would have thought of development from sustainability, that it is an ongoing, prolonged phenomena whereby development is not exclusive to a generation or specific, we can say, set of generations, whereby it is the benefits are expanded, or it reaches out to others as well, right? Few of you have also started writing. I appreciate that, right? So yes, fine. So a lot of you are now writing the answer. So Chituri, she is saying that development is necessary to the evolving world. Development means improving the skills and becoming intellectual. Okay, all right. Development is various levels of life. Then Samita is saying development is incorporating all stakeholders in decision making, implementing and sharing the fruits of equality. And then Sri Krishna is saying that improvement compared to the past state. Ashwin is saying development shows the destination of life. Okay, profound. Balaraju is saying define development and types and elements of development. Okay. Ragini is saying a holistic approach inculcating all walks of society, such as infrastructure, environment, education, rural as well as urban development. Great. So, majority of your reflections are associated with individual or the way a bureaucrat should have thought. And I appreciate that, truly appreciate that. Now, see how this idea of development is given and how creative it is. Okay, Simran is also opening various dimensions. Fine. See this. This introduction is so unique, it's so different. It's written development dash. The word has different connotations in different situations. Means in different situation I'll use the word development differently. Development of the lecture, development of a video, development of a content, development of a metro, development of a human being, development of a country. Think. So in different situations, it has different connotations. That's the first sentence. Simple, yet making you think. Second sentence. It could mean different. It could mean development of a person, dash, physical or mental. So from a person's perspective, physical or mental. Then development of a concept or an idea for a researcher, or development of a theme for a choreographer. See, so profound. Because I told you that majority of your answers that all of you wrote was somewhat associated with a bureaucrat's reflection. You wrote like a bureaucrat. Upliftment of vulnerable section, inclusive, sustainable, multidimensional, or that this. When a researcher is thinking of the term development, the researcher is thinking of hypothesis. Okay, and when, like, let us consider a choreographer is thinking of the term development, the person is thinking of a theme on which a dance can be presented. So see how beautifully, simplistically, but fresh, creative, the word which I say, fresh and creative. Because when it is fresh, you want to read more. Majority of the people will write the same definition of development. But the moment it is written that a scientist, for a scientist, development is like a hypothetical idea which will lead to an innovative idea, product, anything, but it will lead to innovation. And for a choreographer, development is a theme which the person reaches to empower the audience, to titillate the audience, to, like, give a creative surge and aesthetic satisfaction to the audience. See, right? Last para, see this one. Again, after that, like, all the points which all of you were thinking is also given. That for a nation, in the second paragraph, you see, for a nation, development has wide ranging perspectives. It means improvement in various sectors relating to a country's economy, issues affecting daily life of the common man, child development, gender justice, et al. Now, many of you don't know the expression of et al. Et al is not etc. It is encapsulating everything in totality. Anyway, it also entails inclusive growth. Now, all the segments which you said will be substantiated. See the last para. The father of the nation had observed. Recall the face of the poorest and weakest man you have seen, and ask yourself if this step you contemplate is going to be any use to him. These words convey the entire spectrum of development and should be the cornerstone of all development policies. Sentence bank, ready to be used. Last expression, last sentence, you can see that. And the previous sentence, father of the nation, what is it? It is called Gandhiji's talisman. So Gandhi's talisman, which is used in the first page of NCRT as well as IGNOU notes. Because the examiner, the academicians, they want you to get inspired by Gandhiji's talisman. It's called Gandhiji's talisman, this one. Whenever you are stuck with an ethical dilemma, what to do, what not to do, which way to proceed, what all segments to take in consideration, it is considered, take this as a guiding light. Right? So you can see, it's written like an essay. So you can get inspired by the editorials also, how the flow is created, how the segments are opened, if you're really struggling with that, other than the Hindu or Indian Express articles, and other than, we can say, the NCRT books. So many sources already there. So I would say, rather than purchasing a book, it's better that you practice. All the sources from content to expression is there with you. What is missing is practice, language development, capability to write. And as I said, initial 5 essays will disappoint you. So go easy on yourself. Don't curse yourself, or don't hate yourself, or don't underestimate yourself. Tell yourself, no problem. This is who I am, and I'll grow better. I shall grow better. Say that to yourself. It will hurt less. Fine. I hope all of you are getting this idea. Right? Okay. Now, with respect to this, when we are further substantiating the segment, there's a very, very important area that I'm going to start with. That is debatable essays. Debatable essays is the linking pin with respect to, like, the engagement we need to have with topics plus philosophical essays. So, debatable essays is the next segment that I'm targeting after this one. That is, when I have showed you the source, what source you can use. So, with respect to debatable essays, as I would be stepping into it in the next half, it is expected that all of you will be present and you will be connecting with it accordingly, and it is a very important area, so do not ignore it. Okay, so I'm going for a half an hour break once again, 5 to 5:30, rather it's 5:10, almost 5:10. So 5:10 to 5, like, let's say 17:10 to, like, let's say 17:40, we will be back, and then we will be starting with, like, the segment of debatable essays. Debatable essays, 7:40 onward. All right. In this, we will be consolidating few philosophical essays as well. Because in-depth understanding of philosophical essays, which is waiting for the next weekend, can be understood only when you understand this. There's a logical corollary to it. All right. So let's meet once again. Let's take a break and be back.
Okay.